So ladies and gentlemen, the wait is finally over. NFL Week 1 is officially here. And on today's video, I am going to be giving you my full power rankings, rather the top 10 teams leading up to this inaugural week. Now make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. My goal is 50,000 subscribers by the end of the 2024 season. So let's go on ahead and smash that goal. So by the way, I do want to give a giant shout out right to Pristine Auction, today's sponsor. By the way, this video is sponsored by Pristine Auction, the #1 online auction house on the market today when it comes into signed memorabilia from your favorite sports leagues, pop culture, you name it. And get this, signing up for an account is completely free. Go on ahead and sign up right with that link that is pinned in the comments or in my description. And if you win your first auction, simply use code DMitch10. I was able to collect a signed Thurman Thomas helmet, a signed Jim Kelly jersey right behind me, and most recently I have a signed Keon Coleman football from the Buffalo Bills in which that I am actually giving away. So definitely check out Pristine Auction powering this video. So hopping right into it, number 10 for me is the Chicago Bears. And I understand a lot of people are going to think that I'm absolutely insane. I should be admitted into a mental facility, but you have to hear me out here. I think when it comes into Caleb Williams, he perhaps has walked into the best supporting cast any young rookie, any young quarterback could ever walk into. Obviously, DJ Moore with over 1,000 yards with damn Justin Fields as his quarterback, have Keenan Allen, who is going to be a threat out of the slot, and then obviously drafting Rome Odunze in the top 10. He has no shortage of offensive weapons. Run game is sincerely slept on, and even if there still are question marks surrounding the offensive line, Caleb Williams demonstrated in the preseason that will be a non-issue. I love his pocket awareness. I love his ability to roll out, extend plays. We saw highlight after highlight, particularly against first-team D in the preseason, so I see this offense operating like a well-oiled machine. And don't sleep on the defense either. Jalen Johnson's one of the best corners in the league. He's slept on, in my opinion. Montez Sweat made his presence be known last year in Chicago. It wasn't talked about enough since the Bears certainly weren't a threat last year. And then obviously Tremaine Edmonds leading the way in the linebacker room. I have the Chicago Bears threatening for the NFC North in general, but as of today, they are sitting at number 10. The only thing that I can see holding them back is head coach Matt Eberflus. We all know he's on the hot seat, so he better perform. Number 9, I have the Cleveland Browns. That is right, folks. What Stefanski was able to accomplish with a carousel of quarterbacks last year, have Joe Flacco lead them into the playoffs, was certainly impressive. Now they are welcome back to Deshaun Watson, who was 5-1 as a starter, and a lot of people refuse to discuss this. And he is going to be put in with Jerry Jeudy now being an additional offensive weapon. You have Amari Cooper, who quietly always goes over 1,000 yards, and one of the best offensive lines in all of football when it comes into pass protection and also the run game. I'm very high on Jerome Ford for these first couple of weeks, and dare I say that Nick Chubb comes back and even looks 75% of what he used to be. This offense is about to be firing. But even if they weren't, you know that this Cleveland Browns defense is probably the deepest unit in all of the NFL, and they were half of the reason why they got as far as they did, even with all of the question marks surrounding whether or not their QBs could stay healthy. I'm very high on the Cleveland Browns this year. I actually have them threatening for the AFC North. It's going to be between them or the Baltimore Ravens, but I'm going to be choosing the Browns where it stands. Number 9 is where they are during these Week 1 power rankings, but watch them to climb very quickly. Now, number 8 is going to be the New York Jets, and as an NFL content creator, I typically always get people in the comments section saying, Dan, it's the Jets are going to jet. But I think it's naive to think that a roster built this way can be anywhere outside of the top 10 in the NFL. I understand that Aaron Rodgers ended up going down after only 3 plays last year. He was threatening on coming back in the playoffs if they were still in contention, but from what I understand based off of training camp, this guy is a full go. And make no mistake, this Jets team does not need Aaron Rodgers to go out there and go back to his MVP caliber that he was 3 to 4 years ago in Green Bay. He simply just needs to play above average football. With Breece Hall and adding Braylon Allen to the run game, solid offensive line for the first time in a long time, Garrett Wilson consistently racking up 1,000 yards with a carousel of bums as quarterbacks his entire career. Then you add Mike Williams, and then you get Malachi Corley, the Yak King in the draft. This team is stacked top to bottom on the offensive side of the ball. I could bore you with how stacked this New York Jets defense is, but it should be common knowledge. Sauce Gardner, same thing with DJ Reed. You have Quinnen Williams, you have Quincy Williams. Have to give Saleh a lot of credit for building that defensive identity. And as long as Nathaniel Hackett doesn't absolutely lay an egg, this team is going to be threatening for the AFC East, and I cannot wait to watch this 49ers matchup coming next Monday Night Football. Now, number 7 is going to be the Buffalo Bills, and I think there's a lot of false narratives out there that the Buffalo Bills are going to be unable to move forward past some of their key departures. But what I always like to remind people is that all of the key contributors that made the Buffalo Bills, again, an AFC East champion and well into the playoffs, have all returned to this roster. As far as all the departures with Trey White, with Micah Hyde, with Jordan Poyer, with Matt Milano being injured during the preseason, the Buffalo Bills were without them all last year as well. With Trey White, maybe played 3 games in the past 2 years. Poyer and Hyde maybe played 7 games together in a 2-year span, and Matt Milano was injured after week 6. What the Buffalo Bills defense was able to do was have answers on how to play without them, and this team still ended up finishing 3rd in the NFL for points allowed. All of those guys are coming back. Sean McDermott knows how to get the most out of his defense, regardless if he's having a 3rd, 4th, 5th, or a 7th round pick out there playing those responsibilities. Defense is not a concern. Same thing that's been said about defense can also be said about offense. Main contributors for the Buffalo Bills halfway through the season last year were Khalil Shakir, James Cook, Dalton Kincaid, and Dawson Knox. All 4 of those guys are back. Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis were essentially phased out of the main offensive game plan the second that the offensive coordinator ended up switching. Now we end up adding some new pieces that are going to allow the Buffalo Bills to do things they weren't able to do in the past, such as a screen game led by Curtis Samuel, Ray Davis being added right to the run game, and then, of course, Josh Allen, who will be playing like a man on fire. So I have the Buffalo Bills as 7th in the power rankings. Number 6 is going to be the Houston Texans. CJ Stroud shocked the world last year. Him and the head coach, DeMeco Ryan, no one thought that these guys were going to win the AFC South and even end up winning a playoff game. But they were able to completely defy all odds with simply just Nico Collins and Tank Dell for half of the year. Once the Houston Texans organization saw signs that they truly have a franchise quarterback, wow, were they massive spenders in free agency, bringing in Danielle Hunter, bringing in Stephon Diggs to add right to this wide receiver room. Joe Mixon, which is a slept-on acquisition. No one's talking about it enough. This team is about to be incredible. It's going to be must-watch television when the Houston Texans are on the screen. Now, obviously, you do have a Danico Autry who is experiencing a bit of a suspension, but I still think this pass rush is about to be incredible. Some question marks when it comes into the secondary and some question marks when it comes into run defense, but I think this Houston Texans team is going to score early and often, 6th in the power rankings. Now, number 5 is going to be the Philadelphia Eagles, and we all remember that the Philadelphia Eagles had a historical collapse after only losing 1 game well into midway half of the season. They were self-aware enough to understand what the issue was, and that just so happened to be their secondary. Not only did they bring in Vic Fangio, who I think the Miami Dolphins ended up poorly utilizing last year, so they end up addressing heavily the secondary needs by bringing in Quinyon Mitchell. Same thing with Cooper DeJean. I think they were very self-aware to this point to bring in all of that help that they so desperately needed. Super high on this defense. And so although that Jason Kelce has retired, and so I think Jalen Hurts and this offense are going to pick up exactly where they left off, 5 is the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, number 4 is going to be the Detroit Lions. And like the Philadelphia Eagles, this team was able to really identify the issues that they had during the NFC Championship against the San Francisco 49ers. And it was all secondary. Being able to grab Terrion Arnold, Enos Rakestraw, Carlton Davis, have all of the returning offensive help that they had in 2023 return for this year. Campbell is on a mission. Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Watch out for a massive year from Jahmyr Gibbs. Have the Detroit Lions at number 4. So now number 3, I have the Baltimore Ravens. And I think a lot of the issues around this team, as far as my concerns, is the offensive line. Number 1, because they ended up losing 3 of their offensive line starters in free agency by itself. So how is this team going to adjust? I do see them figuring it out, but I see them having a slow start at the beginning of the season and picking it up when you can. Derrick Henry, obviously, it's a massive contribution. Lamar Jackson being the MVP, returning MVP. Zay Flowers with an absolute incredible year coming up. And then that defense, never sleep on that defense. The Baltimore Ravens are sitting at number 3. Now, number 2 is going to be the San Francisco 49ers. Very high on this team. I'm glad that Brandon Ayuk was able to work out his overall contract situation. But the fact that Trent Williams has yet to sign his deal and come back on that left side of the line is definitely a concern. False narrative was that Brock Purdy didn't have an easy time playing without either McCaffrey, Ayuk, or then also Deebo Samuel. But the real thing is that it's all about Trent Williams. He was also out during those games. However, still love the defense, love the supporting cast. I think Trent Williams will end up reaching a deal, and the San Francisco 49ers are at number 2. And so number 1, obviously, is the Kansas City Chiefs. I have made the mistake of counting out Patrick Mahomes way too many times. I could care less who his wide receivers are. Yes, they lost out on Snead. I'm still very high on McDuffie, their pass rush with Chris Jones. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are hands down the best team in football as of week 1. Thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of Power Rankings. Again, my goal is 50,000 subscribers by the end of the season. So subscribe to the channel, turn on bell notifications, and fasten your seatbelt for a week full of crazy content. Love you guys, and as always, I will see you tomorrow.